A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to Admiral Markets, our live trading room here. We're going to take a look at the Forex market and maybe even some other things as well, depending on what you want to ask for and what we would like to see. But as always, of course, there is a disclaimer, first of all, explaining that trading for exchange and all global financial products and markets are considered high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. And this webinar is for educational purposes only. Alrighty, with that risk disclaimer behind us, we're going to take a look at these 5 steps primarily: defining the trend, searching for opportunities, checking filters, establishing the trigger, and then looking for the entry method. And our primary focus will be fibs, trend lines, moving averages, but occasionally some other things as well. So that's the main framework. And today we branded the session as, as intraday trading, in fact. So tomorrow I think we have moving averages, but we'll check in just a second. With that said, I first welcome Michael, in fact. Good morning, and then we'll take a look at the Forex market.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everybody who decided to join us this morning. I'm very happy to see all of you. My name is Michael, and I'm a client relationship manager for Admiral Markets. Here's all my contact information, my email, my Skype, and LinkedIn. You can always add me as a connection. I cherish all new opportunities. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Tulip Mania. We're going to have one more fun episode of Fun with Forex. Because a few weeks ago, I read a very good story on a student who purchased $28 worth of Bitcoin in 2009 and simply forgot about them. When he eventually remembered about his investment, it appreciated in price quite a lot, and today his initial investment is worth a staggering $680,000, from $27 for more than $500,000. When I read it, I was a bit jealous. In fact, I was so jealous I lost my appetite for an entire day. All I kept thinking was, man, I had $27 in 2009. I had even more. If only I did this investment back then. So to make my mood a little better, I decided to talk about something that used to be a lot and perhaps seemed like a smart investment and now is worth almost nothing. Perhaps sometime in the future I can speak about Enron, Lehman Brothers, and something of the same caliber, but today I will tell you a story that is a little older. In 1637, tulips were what bitcoins today wish to be. Tulips were one of the highest priced commodities. The entire time period around 1637 was called Tulip Mania. At one point during the Tulip Mania, 12 acres of land were offered in exchange for one tulip bulb. And some single tulip bulbs sold for more than 10 times the annual income of skilled craftsmen. This is actually the chart for the tulips. Let's put it in perspective. A skilled craftsman can expect to earn around $30,000 per annum, which means one bulb went for a monstrous $1/3 of a million. That's for a single flower. And how much are tulips worth today? I can buy a few bulbs for the price of Subway sandwich. Will we see the same thing happening with Bitcoin? Well, who knows? They have been growing constantly, and there was a very sharp movement this week alone. What I know for sure, some things never change, and gold, silver, and oil will always be a great way to invest your money. So open an Admiral Standard today, and you can make bets on CFDs. You can always short or long commodities that have been there for centuries. Gold, silver, oil, then also indexes and all kinds of stocks. That's all you can do on Admiral Standard. So do it today and see your investments appreciate over the time. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any more stories you would like to contribute, please send them to my email. I'll be waiting for that. It's been Michael Onahoff. I will now pass the floor back to Chris. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Michael. Amazing story indeed about that Bitcoin and the bulbs, in fact. We're going to take a look at, first of all, the the news to take a look if there's anything blocking potential trading. Alrighty. What you see here, by the way, is my wave count, just in case you were wondering, of yesterday. You can find that by going to the Admiral Markets website and going to analytics, and you can take a look at technical analysis, wave analysis, fundamental analysis. We're going to take a look at the Forex calendar right now and see what's going on. I think tomorrow we have FOMC, but we can take a look just to verify that. We have Euro, German, ZEW, economic sentiment, and otherwise looking like a pretty quiet day for the rest, in fact. No pound news, no dollar news. Let's take a look at the rest of the week, in fact. If that works, not sure. Oh, there it is. Yeah, good. So tomorrow, meeting minutes, MPC on the pound, dollar news, but also dollar FOMC. So that's, of course, a biggie always. So there's a lot of dollar news tomorrow that will impact our trading. Thursday, Bank of Japan, Euro, President speaking. Okay, the rest is normal red tag news. In effect, so only FOMC really the big, very big this week. If you're new in here by any chance, we're going to take a look at the Forex market right now, just in case you want to register any session this week or next week or whenever. You can do that by going to admiralmarkets.com website, going to education, clicking on webinars, and then you'll see the sign up link or button, in fact, connected to any of these webinars. Tomorrow we'll have trendline trading, and Thursday, wave and fibs. So if you like fibs and or waves, take a look on Thursday. Today we got intraday, as you can see, so you can sign up like that. With that said, let's move over to the euro dollar. Let's start with that, as always, and take a look at this major currency pair. So this move up to 135.40 was expected yesterday, for those of you who looked at my wave analysis. A small move up, about 40 pips there, 50. Not much space because of the daily resistance at 135.50. So, you know, a break of that level was not to be expected, and it didn't. And we went down a bit after that and went into, you know, sleeping mode, as normally happens during Asian session, with only a range of about 25 pips, which is typical. This entire up move, though, and this small consolidation we've had just the last few hours, all fits, in the meantime, within a very nice uptrend channel. And yes, I was bearish on this, but not anymore necessarily, because it's taking too long. You know, it would have had to have broken here, max here, very, very max. Either of these three spots, let me say it this way, and we could have seen a nice drop, potentially, maybe lower. But it didn't happen. All three spots we got bounces upside, and you know, in this case you can see the moving averages are intertwined here as well. It's a triangle, and that's already a valid break with the trend. In fact, we've already had a couple, maybe two of them. So even these were good breaks. Smaller breaks, though, also a bit more riskier because there was that downside momentum a bit, especially these two. And here the break to the downside was already getting less likely. So that's how a downtrend can slowly but surely transform into upside, although it was very choppy, as everyone could see. A lot of ups and downs, slow movements. So with that said, I think upside momentum is prevalent at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised to see continuation of that. We can take a look at the 15-minute chart. We can see our black band here is pointed to the upside. Our green band is pointed to the upside. In all, you know, in that way, everything is in an uptrend. One thing to note, though, is that we are maybe back at the 4-hour green band here, long-term moving averages. Plus, we are close to this resistance. Therefore, personally, although I do see this upside momentum, for me, it's too close to this resistance to be really interested. But it is making that upside break on the 50-minute world. We'll probably have to punch through at least this level. Oh, 1 second. Like this, which is about 135.22. Once we break above with a small stop, maybe a stop loss below here, 135. It's only 22 pips. It's possible. I mean, technically it could be a breakout with a small risk and try to catch a position for a break above 135.50. That is a potential setup, but to me, I don't know, I'm not too excited about it because of that bigger resistance on the 4-hour chart and this top so close by. So I'm not going to take that personally. But there is kind of a triangle here, and if we break above the top of this triangle, or part of that top, that we could be breaking to the upside. Definitely. But I'd rather see if there's something else really to trade. To me, it doesn't seem that attractive. But we can take a look at maybe our Camarilla pivot point indicator to see if that gives any interesting information. Let's see. It's the euro dollar. It says an H4 breakout at 135.37. And we're right at the H3, so we have to be careful. And the H5 target would be 135.68. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. The way I was thinking about the breakout above 135.22. But H4 is a bit higher. L3 at 134.80. L4 at 134.60. Yeah, that probably makes sense. I don't think we'll get there today, but if we do, we'll be breaking this trend line, I guess. Let's take a look at the 1 hour. What you definitely want to wait for before shorting is a break of this trend line. And when L4, when we reach the price level of L4 at 134.60, we would be breaking that trend line as well. So back to 30, you can see that. Oh, it makes sense. So that's the pivot point indicator. Let's take a look at pound, and then we'll go back to technical analysis. H4 at 161.49, H5 up to 161.80. That makes sense. 161.80 is a big level. Does anyone know why? I'll tell you in a second. So that makes sense. L4 160.75 down to 160.50 or 160.45. Makes sense too, because then we're probably breaking out of this triangle to the downside, in fact. Makes sense too. Does anyone know why 160.80 is so important? 161.80, sorry. It's the 4-hour chart. No one knows? It's the 78.6% Fibonacci retracement of this downside. So definitely an important level because we stopped at the 61.8, and that's at 161.80. So that's definitely a important level. I think the pound could get there. So I would like this pound break to the upside a bit more, maybe because there seems to be more space than on the euro. This is kind of making a rising wedge. We corrected the rising wedge a bit, so there could be, without a clear break, to be honest, this was just a very small break. So we could push up to that 161.80, and that would be the resistance. So a buy here up to 161.80, or not necessarily here, but soon. Let's take a look at that. And then somewhere here, finding resistance for downside seems to me the most probable setup here. Maybe we're getting a break as we speak, in fact. It was a very big open, in fact, of the London Open. A 120 pip rise within minutes. That's a pretty impressive start of the pound dollar, even before we were able to analyze it. So a breakout trade actually happening right now, and it technically would make sense to me because we are in an uptrend. Definitely, although this is quite choppy, if you look at the moving averages and everything, this is definitely an uptrend, and we're breaking out to the upside. So that could be interesting. Not right now, not particularly at this point. Let's see. Maybe a small hook back to 161.10 could be interesting. Sorry about that. So it is breaking to the upside, but don't forget that the pound dollar, especially early in the morning, it will make spikes up and down. So there's no need to jump in when it's moving at its fastest, in my opinion. Alrighty. So back to the 15. We can take a look at how this breaks. If it hooks back to the broken trend line, for example, down in here with the stop loss here, I think that would be a good long. We've pushed through this resistance, this shorter term resistance, in fact. That level's broken now, so that's good. There could even be a 1 hour breakout with the stop loss here. It's possible. The risk is about 30 pips. But then again, personally, I would rather wait for a bit of a confirmation more, maybe with price staying above here with at least one candle as a confirmation of that breakout, and then waiting for the hook back after the sustainable breakout for that continuation. So that's my plan, I guess. Other than that, nothing really to add. This is the 4 hour chart. Well, just to put it in context, this small upside here, about 60 pips, is basically just part of this correction, of this correction up, in my opinion at least, and we could see resistance here for more downside. That is possible. Let's see. Then again, we never know, because this is starting to look like almost like a bull flag after this impulse. Who knows? If we do break above 162.30, we could maybe continue up. For the moment, though, this is more looking like a turnaround with double top and making lower lows, lower highs. We're moving back to resistance. The 786 fib could send this thing way lower. So the long term looks more bearish, but if we do break above 162.30, 162.50, above that green line there, then obviously it's more bullish than I thought. Right? So that's the long-term picture. Basically, we're now looking just at a very small upside trade here to that fib. That's all. So let's go back in 10 minutes and look at the pound again. Do you have any favorites you want to look at? Personally, I don't have any established favorites as yet, but I want to take a look at just our usuals, in fact. This is the odd USD 1 hour chart, but let's start with the day chart for this pair. Of course, we stopped at the 50 fib here of the entire down move. Had a pretty good downside after that, but couldn't break this weekly bottom. And we've been bouncing off that weekly bottom ever since. And in fact, we broke above this resistance level here on the day chart. And yesterday had a doji with a more wick at the tops than the bottom, but in the meantime, we already broken yesterday's high. It's a pretty bullish start of the day for the Aussie. And looking like a breakout trade to the upside, in fact, now. Well, the Aussie really flying up. Now it's a bit too late to take the breakout trade. There was a good one here on this trend line, right in here. That was a nice one because the currency was pushing through there. That's now too late. But in any case, I think that if this gives a hook back, we'll see a follow through. I think that's pretty likely. Although from the 4-hour perspective, we have to be careful that this is not a retracement of this downside, of course. That's something to be aware of. Looking very bullish on the lower time frame, but then again, got to be careful of that as well. Especially a level like this could be resistance. When we approach these tops, of course. Yeah, up at 95 could be resistance. So there's still some pips left. We don't want to jump in here because we're in the middle of nowhere. But if we do give a hook back, there will be space up to 95, unless, of course, we blast up to 95 in one shot. But there's no way catching that. I don't know what's happening with the dollar exactly, but it sure is weakening a lot at the moment. Is there any news that? Let me take a look because this is quite volatile for this early in the morning. Let's take a look. Was there any news? Did anyone hear something? Quite a funny start. Nope, not sure. It's really exploded. The dollar really weakened a lot in the last 20 minutes here on the odd, especially also here at 7:59, 1 minute prior to open. Just like the pound, the Aussie already flew up 40 pips from there. Yeah. So that was a good breakout trade, but as I said, jumping in here doesn't really make sense. Only if you maybe trade a 1 minute chart and you scalp a few pips to the upside. Your $2 pushing above this level, as I said, that would be the breakout trade. I didn't like it. I didn't like the euro as much as the pound, as I told you, because of this resistance, but it is pushing up too, although we have to see if it can push above 133, 135.50. I think it will. Ah, that's great. Kite is saying that China will cut ratio of T-bonds held to maturity. That's not good for the dollar, I can imagine, indeed. So that could definitely cause something like that. Interesting. Definitely see that dollar weakness pop in the market just at the very beginning of our session. What's happening with the dollar yen? Let's take a look. Dollar yen not moving down that much. Dollar yen, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 618 bounce personally. For upside, I wouldn't mind taking a trade, in fact, something like this, a breakout trade above here for that upside continuation. We're making higher highs, higher lows. We're bouncing off. Let me tell you exactly, for those of you who are maybe not so looking much at the dollar yen. We've got a triangle like this, and we broke out of the triangle, and this could be a hook back to the broken triangle for a potential bounce. And maybe a break of these resistance, or maybe this resistance as well. If we break those, we can challenge the top, and when we break the top, then we have space up to 110. If not 120 or 125 even. So there is a lot of potential once we do break out to the upside. This could still be actually a bearish triangle for more downside down to 90.91 before we move up. So this upside has moved, accordingly. It has moved up decently, not as fast maybe as I would have thought it would, but it is moving up. So still, if we stay above this bottom right in here, there's a lot of reason to believe that this could break to the upside on the daily chart, and this could be a bounce off the daily broken triangle. If we break below here, then something else is going on, and it's not as bullish as I thought, at least for the moment. So to me, the breakout trade to the upside on the dollar yen is definitely an idea that is very interesting to me. Question is how to trade it. An entry above this 1 hour fractal with the stop loss here would be tight stop loss, and a stop loss below here would of course be loose, but would definitely be at the invalidation level. Whereas the first spot, the currency could still actually retrace lower before it moves up, and that the looser second stop loss would be safe from such an event. Alrighty, so that's interesting. Looks like a pretty big pin bar. I want to see a bit how this dollar weakness affects this dollar yen too. In that case, probably the pound yen must be flying up. In fact, if the yen is stable but the pound is moving up, let's take a look. That's not that bad, in fact. Obviously, the 160 level from a daily perspective, the broken tops in here, and now we're making highs that we've never seen in 4.5 years, in the last 4.5 years in the pound yen Forex history. So it was a very long time ago that we've seen these levels. As I said, spring 2009 was the last time. So if we hook back to this broken 160, that will obviously be a very strong reason for a bounce if we get that low. We are close, not totally there yet. Broken resistance becomes support, especially at a level like that, is certainly a high probability. So that's the pound yen. Euro yen is also looking bullish, but I wouldn't touch this for the moment because we're right at triple top, potentially triple top. So we want to be very careful with that. I would call that a filter for the moment. Let's be careful with that. XAU USD I only see a trade when we break this green line for upside up to the purple trend line. When we break the purple trend line, I see a trade up to the green 1360. Once we break 1360, I see a trade up to 1430, and once we break 1430, up to 1520. Those are the four zones I see here on the XDU USD. Downside, only a small one here. It doesn't even make sense to trade it down to 1250, but below 1250, potential to fall, maybe to retest the bottom at 1180. So that's gold in a nutshell. Thank you, Moga. Yeah, Moga is also confirming what Kite already actually said about the T-bonds, I think. Let me take a look. China will cut ratio of T-bonds held to maturity. Very interesting. Thank you, Moga. That could definitely impact the dollar. Let's take a look at the dollar Swiss. The dollar Swiss is quite choppy, still above this 91 support level. Very choppy downtrend channel, or is it maybe even a bull flag? If it is a bull flag, it's a very big one in any case. It could be a bull flag still. If it is, we'll see a breakout trade to the upside. If it does break this trend channel, it would be a good trade to the upside, up to challenge this 94.50 at least. If it breaks this bottom at 91, then we could see some more downside to challenge this bottom. So I wouldn't touch it unless we break one of the two, the bottom here or the this uptrend channel on the dollar Swiss specifically. Let's take a look at the dollar CAD. Sorry, I deleted the indicator by any chance, by accident. 1 second. Okay. Good. Dollar CAD challenged this daily trend line but couldn't break it, and rejected back down, in fact, and broke through this uptrend channel. Oh. So pretty bearish, in fact, on the dollar CAD at the moment. But we have to be careful of this long-term moving average right in here. It's still above support as well. These support levels. I would stay out of the dollar CAD at the moment. It's looking pretty wacky. Either it really pushes lower for confirmed downtrend, or it pushes above. Wouldn't touch it so far. Dollar yen, I'm going to keep an eye on the dollar yen for a potential breakout to the upside. So what else do we have left? New Zealand is also pushing up just like the Aussie. What does that mean though? We had a very, very big pin bar yesterday. That was wacky. I wouldn't trust this upside as much unless we really push above this resistance level. I would be a bit careful with the Kiwi. That is a pretty big daily pin bar. Right at the top of this kind of range that you can see in here. So that's how I would really be careful of, personally. Let's see if there's any other currency for the moment. Could definitely be a potential resistance. Now, obviously, you know, it's difficult to consider this a reversal candle per se, because we did break out. I don't know. I would, if it would happen here. Let me say it this way: wouldn't mind to call it just like here. This is a potential range, but still, it's kind of like over head and shoulders maybe. It could be a good selling signal. I don't know. So you might want to even think about, or we could even think about seeing if there's some exhaustion on the lower time frames when it challenges this top. If we see that, there could be even a reason to consider some bearish momentum kick in again. That is possible. For the moment, though, you can see the short-term momentum is up, so I would be careful with that. Alrighty. Back to the 1 minute chart on the Aussie. Nothing happened really. We were looking at it when it made this last push up. I said it's in the middle of nowhere, so be careful, and it just died so far. Nothing happened. Pound dollar, what happened with that? Well, as I said, this is going to spike up, but it's not going to continue forever. Went to 161.28, and it's already back to 13. So let's take a look. Got to be careful here. It's a very spiky environment. Look at this choppy upside. So got to be very careful. The breakout candle, as I said, I want to see how it breaks out. It's not too inspiring either. I do think it's still sufficiently set up for bullishness, though, for at least continuation. The question is how and when to enter for the moment. I don't think anytime soon if I look at the oscillator, though. I just realized. This might have to go back all the way to the zero line for me to be really interested. So time factors, you know, there's a lot of time I think to wait for that setup. Euro dollar spiked up to the 135.50, couldn't break it. It's moving down pretty fast. So I don't know, that could have been a new spike regarding this maturity. I don't know. I think it's a bit difficult to say. What I don't like about it, yes, I mean, it is possible to see a bounce here. Definitely. The downside seems to be quite volatile. So there's a bit of a hesitation on my side from that side, but in that way. But especially on the euro, pound, I'm still, despite this downside, you would think it's still bullish, but it's moving down only pretty fast. So I would say let's wait. I'm going to wait at least to see how this thing rides out. As I said, the oscillator is still way high. So for me to really get interested, I want this oscillator to go back to the zero line. Let this correction finish, and then wait for the first break above the first fractal. Euro dollar is moving pretty fast as well. And as I said, we're very close to the 135.50. That could be a difficult level. Got to be careful here. Especially on the euro dollar. Aussie also moving down. Pretty big pin bar so far, but this hour, of course, is far from finished, so we'll have to see how that ends up at the end of the hour. Euro pound. Let me take everything off. I didn't take a look at the euro pound this morning yet, so let's do that together. Let's start with the day chart. Well, small bullish day yesterday. Difficult to say. It's kind of like a triangle at the moment. Strong downside, strong upside, who knows? This could go both ways, in fact. And we could probably put trend lines like this and say, okay, whatever side it breaks, that could be a good trade. Although the upside might see something like that happen, and the downside also might see something like that, because on both sides we have support and resistance pretty close by. So there's this, I'm not a big fan of the 0 pound anyhow, so it doesn't seem to be that set up that nicely. What happened with the dollar yen? Pushed down and up again in these last 15 minutes. Funny. Pound odd. Wow, pound odd really getting a pretty strong pin bar here. It of course fell a lot. Last night we had a pin bar at the top here. We're down a lot of pips since then. For our chart, pretty bullish still. Although, of course, the fact that we are making a lower low on the 4-hour chart now, slowly but surely seeing a reversal take place here, right? Which wouldn't surprise me. The daily chart's making a lot of lower lows, lower highs. We are challenging this top again. So, you know, a test of that, we're basically retesting this top. So I wouldn't necessarily expect a break of that top in one go, at least a hook back if we were then to break through, maybe, if not another drop, in fact. So some bearishness kicking in close to this top makes sense. This is looking pretty bearish. Any move up, I think, is definitely a decent sign for a move down again. Realize, though, that the oscillator here is a very strong oscillator. Look at that. The moment it's still building, and it's already the lowest of all of them here, especially if you can compare it to this one and this one. So this is looking very bearish, in fact. Any hook back here, any move up to the 0 line on the oscillator, any small bear flag, any zigzag up to these moving averages and drop, could see a drop continuation. Don't forget that this 1 hour move will eventually get retraced to a certain degree, and then the next one could be a very, very good drop. It doesn't have to be a big correction or a long correction. This could be relatively short in time before we see the next drop. I would keep an eye on the 50-minute world in this case for that continuation. You see the 1 hour oscillator is relatively close to the 0 line. So that could still have a lot of space to fall before we get another hook back, probably a bigger hook back. So something like this could happen. Something like that I would expect. A faster fall, then a bear flag, one more fall to create divergence between these bottoms, then a bit steeper correction back to this top where I have the blue circle, and then still one more fall. It could all happen. Considering the fact that this could be a daily turn, if that were true, then we could even see this thing fall to 164, 161. Those would be the targets. So you can imagine there could be a lot of space. If it does fall to 164, that is 700 pips. If it falls to 161, that is 1,000 pips. And then we'll be back at this support level, which could be a bouncing spot, to move up to 190 from the longer term perspective. So I'm pretty bearish on this pound odd at the moment, especially the fact that we stopped here at the 786 and the 4-hour chart we're making, showing potential signs of reversals. This thing could really drop as a stone. There could be a lot of pips to the downside. Very interesting spot. Now, what could happen for this analysis not to prove true, or these trade setups? It definitely, of course, there is a potential for this to finish here, and this is actually upside from here. That is possible. If that is true, then we should expect a bounce at the 382 here, right now, or at the 50. At maximum, probably $618. Once we break basically these tops, that could be support, and this trend line, this is of course confirmed bearishness then. That's still a while from here, so I wouldn't necessarily wait for that. It's a bit too long. Just have to realize that until that moment, these could still be support levels. If we break that, then we have the confirmation of bearishness. That's all. We have to see, of course, how price bounces at these potential support, if and how they bounce at potential support levels. What could happen is we rise here, fall down to the 618, we get a small bear flag, and then we could easily expect a drop. If we don't get a bear flag with a close in reverse and a spike up and a bull flag like that, well then that was the bouncing spot and we can expect upside. So that's how we'll have to wait for how price reacts to that particular support level. But for the moment, I'm pretty bearish. It's just not a confirmed setup as yet. Especially has to do with the 15-minute world. It's pretty powerful downside momentum here. Let's see if we can. I think that the likelihood of getting continuation with that bearish momentum is pretty high. But let's see. This will have to go anyhow back to the. For me to be interested, I would like to see this back to the zero line. For the 15-minute world to get back to the zero line, you would really only need. Well, what would you need? About. Difficult to say, maybe 2-3 hours, probably. Well, let's take a look at this. We don't have to guess. We can take a look at this. This is a downside here. We hit the bottom of that oscillator here, but we still push lower. So it's not a good example. Maybe here. This was 4 o'clock. I hit the zero line at 6, so that's 2 hours. But still, actually, before we made the turn, it was 10. So we made 6 hours of upside before we got the continuation. Although after 2 hours, the oscillator was back to the zero line. Pound not getting any bounce so far. Euro neither. And you can see this was on the lower time for an uptrend, but that's why we want to be very careful of bigger resistances, because look what happened. That's why those resistances are so important as a filter for with the trend trades. Let's take a look at the euro odd. Let me add that. Same thing, in fact, same analysis. Here too, right at resistance in this downtrend channel on the daily. 4-hour chart, same story. And we're breaking through these supports, and even this one now as we speak. No, not yet. We just pushed a few pips through that, in fact, but this was a strong recovery, but of course we didn't get the follow through. We had an attempt here, then we got double top. We had a slowish downside for the moment, slowish upside, but this downside is really picking up speed, and that's confirming this turnaround, this double top, this break of the support. And this is actually the first break. This is the break. This is in fact the pullback, and we're getting the continuation, which is pretty impulsive as we speak. So that's looking just like the pound odd. I like the bearishness here. 1 second, folks. I'm back in 30 seconds. Okay, folks, I'm back. Sorry about that. So yeah, that also, just like the pound odd, looking very bearish. I would here too let this 50-minute thing ride out, because this is just an ongoing impulse. It could fall another 30 pips. I'm not saying, but it would be only way to catch it would be a 1-minute chart, and I'm not experienced enough to trade that. But what I would be looking for is a hook back here and continue on the 50. Very simple. 1-minute chart is looking a bit funny, but Sammy, what do you mean with performance? What do you mean with gold performance? Not sure what the question is. Dollar yen isn't breaking as yet. Not sure if it's going to break, but if it does, it could be a good sign. Oh, understand. 2-3 months old, it's difficult to say. I don't have any clear vision on that, what would necessarily happen in 2-3 months. I mean, sometimes, in some cases I do. For example, the odd USD, because I expected a huge fall right in here. I said, okay, I expect this to really be mid-June down at 90, 92, 6 weeks from now. And mid-June, it closed, the weekly closed at 92.30, and the low was 91.60. So that was spot on. Of course, there's a bit of luck involved, I'm not saying, because timing and price 2-3 months in the future is not an easy thing. In this case, it was for me worth the prediction, because it had a clear fall in mind, and I thought, okay, it's going to fall fast, and I had a certain area where I thought it could go to, so that made sense. In other cases, I never really make predictions 2-3 months ahead of time, because I'm always trading what opportunities of the today, tomorrow, and and the next day, kind of. So I don't really, not that concerned about it. I'm not really concerned, like, I think euro would be at 135 1 year from now. Doesn't really give me that much information because I'm anyhow just following a price as it moves along. So if I look at gold, I would say I'm waiting for a break of this green line for upside up to the purple, break of purple up to green, break of green up to red, break of red up to 1520. Break of purple, expect down, break of green, expect down. That's basically my plan. So how that will look 2-3 months from now, I don't know. But it's possible, two scenarios. This is the end of the correction. We're going up now. Or we could still, yeah, I would think that's the most likely. I mean, this is technically, it could still maybe make one more fall, but it's possible. This is a pretty strong oscillator reading. It's made 3 waves so far down. Do you see it? This is one wave. This was a correction, as expected, and this is downside. Sorry about that. So is this another correction for downside, or was the correction over here and this is already upside? Either, to be honest, I don't have, both are possible. I don't really have a favorite for that really. So I'll just let these trend lines decide, basically, for the moment. I do think, though, that 1430, which is now a monthly high, apparently, if we break that, of course, 1527 is a big resistance, I'm not saying, but that could be the first signal of higher highs, at least, and higher lows. Until we break 1430, what we have here, in fact, on the weekly chart is a triangle. A triangle could easily be consolidation from a downside or the first attempt for a reversal. It's really, no, I don't dare to say. Let's see. I was trying to figure out if I could give it, give favor one of the two sides. Difficult to say, really, in my opinion. Anyone else have a favorite, or are you neutral, waiting for the breaks just like I? If you have an opinion, by all means, let us know. We'll see. We'll see what others think as well. So please, if you have an opinion, write that down, and we can compare it and give Sammy the feedback. Alrighty. So I've shown basically my favorites, my favorite currency pairs that I normally look at. Does anyone else have something they want to look at by any chance? Sorry. Euro New Zealand looks bearish to me too. This is a clear impulse. This looks like a correction up to the 50, a fall, move back to the 50. Although we do have a pin bar, or not pin bar, but a bullish candle at least here. We have some support in this level, but if that would break, I think then we could see the sturdy continuation. No answer so far, Sammy. Does anyone have an opinion on gold, or are you neutral as well? Maybe the others don't look at gold, Sammy. I don't know. Could be. Pound New Zealand. Double top here too. Had a pretty strong downside, but now making a triangle. This too looks bearish to me. In fact, although moving averages are flat, it's more like, as I said, it's really consolidation. Moving averages are flat, no angle. This is bouncing back and forth. In fact, both breaks could make sense. But considering the fact that the impulse prior to the triangle is down, I would expect downside here on the pound New Zealand to have a slightly upper hand in this matter. So those four are in a way confirming each other. Alrighty. So we got some questions. That's great. Robert is asking if the euro dollar looks like reversing. Well, you could have a very good point. I would say let's wait 14 minutes and let's take a look at how this this 1 hour candle looks like. It will depend. I mean, it's let me say it this way. I've seen so many times that reversals do not really materialize that I've become skeptical of reversals, let me say it this way. But yes, this is a resistance. It is a pretty strong price action signal so far. But no, we're not below these bottoms yet. No, we're not below this trend line. It still could be a pop-up, just a bit of an over exaggerated move down where it bumps into support again, because that's what happens when you're in a trend. You know, you bump into the support and then slowly but surely we start building up an upside and we push through this resistance. So for me personally, it could look like it's reversing, but I would still wait for really a break through this purple line. It's anyhow pretty close by. You know, the purple line is only a few pips below here. I would rather wait for that confirmation personally. But we can wait 12 minutes from now and see how this candle looks like. If it's a doji, I wouldn't say that that's a reversal sign. If it's a pretty bearish candle, could be a first slight indication that that could happen. Although, as I said, the odds are even then not that favorable for me, at least. Although it could be a first sign. That's how I would formulate it. Obviously, this is indeed a corrective upside, but still, it is an upside. So hope that makes sense. I know that maybe it's annoying sometimes to wait for confirmation like that. Although it seems interesting. I mean, the price action could be interesting, but in some cases, I think it makes sense to be a bit more maybe patient with the confirmation. Okay, great. So let's take a look at the Kiwi, and then we'll take a look at pound. Björn has a question on that. Arne is asking about the Kiwi. Well, that is a pretty big wick so far, indeed. Just like the euro, of course, we have to wait for that confirmation of how that candle looks like. We'll take a look at all of these in 10 minutes. Well, New Zealand does have a very bearish daily candle. How does the euro look like? Euro does have a bit of a shooting star. That does aid to the prospect of something like that, Robert, indeed. That's true. Well, I guess if you wanted to try it, wait for a small pullback, I guess, of that 1 hour candle. And if you get somewhere around maybe 135.35 with a very small stop loss, it's very risky, as I said, but maybe with a small risk and a small stop loss regarding pip size, I try to target something substantial, maybe like down to 134 at least. Then at least you're getting about 4, 5 to 1 R2R for that risk. And if you take a small risk, it could be worth a reversal trade indeed. But let's take a look at how the 1 hour chart ends up. Let's go back to the Kiwi now. To the Kiwi. Kiwi is looking a bit, even more bearish, let's face it, in the sense that that was a pretty big bearish bar that doesn't really add up with the Euro New Zealand analysis that I was doing, because that looked bearishly set up. But then again, we did have, if I look at it, if I review the Euro New Zealand again, sorry, then we do see a bullish candle right at this support level. So maybe it's not as bearish as I thought. Yes, we can see this momentum to the downside, but recently we have a pretty good price action signal here. Maybe it could push up to retest these tops. New Zealand dollar is in any case pretty bearish, right at the top of a range. Not only a day bar, but now a 4-hour potential 4-hour bar. When does this 4-hour bar close? Let me take a look. 8. It started at 8. Oh, it just started. So that's a bit too early to tell. I think if it's a 1-hour doji, I would be careful. A 1-hour doji right in here could easily be just a pause, and you could see a bullish candle right after that. I wouldn't trust that price action signal necessarily. And if it's a 4-hour wick like that, and it has a close below the high, below 83.50, so not only does it have this wick, it has a bearish close, and the bearish close is below 83.50 on this New Zealand dollar, then I would consider that a decent price action signal. Decent, not great, because we only had 2 bars up here, and it's not a clear trend of the upside here on the 4-hour chart, like here. If we get a pin bar like that at the top here after this run up, then that would be a better signal, just maybe something like this. We had a bit of downside. Why am I so careful? As I said, reversals are very difficult to catch, and it's a lot easier to trade with the momentum. And this momentum is up for the moment, even though we've had drops to the downside. So I'll be very careful. This momentum is definitely up. Definitely up. If you look at the 15-minute world, yes, we did make a 30 pip drop. But you can also see this was a very, very strong impulse, in fact. This could be just a 50% bounce for more upside. I'll be cautious for that downside, and the short-term upside looks strong. To me, at least. I would just be careful of both sides. 1, because we're in a range. 2, because we have upside momentum, but bearish price action signals. So there's not much confluence there. It's a lot of mixed signals. I'll be careful with that. Euro odd. Let me go to the Euro odd here. 1 second. Oh, pound odd, sorry. A 50 fib? Yeah, makes sense. Now, of course, we don't know if this is going to be the reversal spot, retracement spot, excuse me, or are we going to push lower? In the meantime, we haven't broken this low for 30 minutes. I think maybe a small push through here, break this bottom, get some of the divergence, and then a move up is likely. So we'll probably have to move down this fib. If it does push down, we'll have to adjust this fib, of course, put it a bit lower, as you probably are aware of. If we do that, in any case, if it doesn't, then we can keep the fib here in a 50, whichever fib it is, makes sense. But personally, I'll be very closely looking at this oscillator for going back to the zero line. And also what we can take a look at is how does this first 5 move up correspond. We can put a fib on this first 5-minute move up. Probably, depending on how the correction goes, we can see if it stops at 382, 50, or 618. Either of those three could be the balancing spot, so I'm still waiting. But the 50 is a very likely spot indeed, absolutely. Just be aware that if you take the fib, the safest stop loss is always above the swing high, swing low, unless, of course, you enter in a different way. What I'll personally be looking for is a breakout trade. I'll be looking for a move up to the 50 fib. Then I want to see the first break of a 50-minute fractal, and I'll use the opposite 50-minute fractal as entry, as a stop loss and entry. Opposite 50-minute fractal as a stop loss, and of course the break below the 50-minute fractal as entry. That way the stop loss is smaller, but an entry to 50 makes sense to me too. It's just the stop loss is a bit bigger. Also, one of the reasons with advantages of the breakout is that we don't know exactly how deep this pop-up could be in theory. It could go to the 786 or 618 as well. Right? That's something we don't know. Although I don't think it's likely. But you never know. So that's my plan, basically the breakout. But it does make sense. Any other questions by any chance? Nothing yet? Sometimes it's annoying to be patient, but it definitely definitely pays off because unless you're trading something of a higher time frame and you're taking maybe the break of this 4-hour bottom, there's really nothing to trade unless we get a hook back. This is the odd New Zealand. This is just bouncing back and forth in a way. Kind of in a triangle at best. If not in a descending wedge, maybe even. But making a pretty sturdy pop back. But it could be definitely a pop back. In fact, maybe a break below this trend line could already be a good sell, because this could be just a pop back for a one more sell or short underneath this trend line. Well, that's great, M. John. Well, happy about that. So that could be an interesting trade. It is a counter trend trade on the 50-minute world, but I mean, looking at the longer perspective on the 1-hour chart even, you can see that could be a rise to fall. So it would be a cheeky way of catching a reversal. But once we break this 15-minute support, that could be reason for it to fall. But one thing you have to be aware of is that it could fall very slowly. If it does that, get out, because that could mean if it moves slowly, this could just be a bull flag from your upside. If it does move fast, then you could even target this bottom or trail stop it using the 50-minute fractals. What else? AutoCAD. AutoCAD had a good breakout, but I was sleeping right here. To the upside. CAD is quite slowish though. Look at this pound CAD. But AutoCAD had a pretty good breakout. How about that dollar index? Let's take a look at that dollar index. Pretty, just like the Swissy, right? Making maybe a bull flag. Or is it a downtrend? In any case, it's above this 80-40 support. Once it breaks 80-40 support, we can maybe see some more downside. And this was a hook back to the broken trend line. If we stay above, it's just maybe a bull flag for upside. Oh, I forgot. Euro dollar. Let's take a look at those hourly candles. I almost forgot about that. Just closed 5 minutes ago. Doji. So no, I would be careful of that. It's basically just indecision. We have to wait. It might be. I would wait personally. If it would have been a very bearish candle, closing somewhere here, with a lot of momentum, with a big wick, could have been different. This doji could be. I mean, it's just indecision. We really don't know. It is close to resistance, but considering the uptrend, I would be careful. Pound dollar. Wow, pound dollar. It's good we waited because we didn't get any bounce here, nor did we have a sustainable breakout. looking a bit more bearish, doesn't it? The euro pound dollar, pretty strong candlestick pattern, but it's only a 1 hour chart. It's also a London Open, so I would say we have to probably be careful with all of that in this stage. It's too soon for grand decisions, I would say. Let me get rid of everything. Let me put on a new, just everything from scratch again. Especially in this environment where it's so choppy, be very careful. I would look at the 4 hour bottom at least, 160.80. I think that's also where the Camarilla kicks in for downside. If we get a fall below 160.80, a small bear flag, and the next break could be interesting. Otherwise, I would still be careful with downside. And also, obviously, very careful with upside until we really break above these tops in here, 161.30. And then we might have space to 161.80. In between this, I'd be careful. It did look like a good breakout to the upside. We didn't get a good 15-minute close above it, though. Saw it move down pretty fast. So I'll just be careful in its entirety now. Let's take a look at odd. 1 hour, pretty big pin bar 2, just like the pound. There is some divergence. Then again, obviously, we see the upside momentum here. But yeah, the upside seems limited in this case, I would say. And we'll have to see if we can get, let's take a look how the next 2 hours, I would say, behave. Small upside here to retest this top, and then something like that could happen, or this. Once we break this 15-minute bottom and we get a hook back, then probably more downside is likely. But it's going to take some time factor. So there's no rush in catching a reversal here, I would say. Odd USD, is definitely a very strong momentum to the upside. So we want to be very careful with that. This could still push up despite that 1 hour pin bar. If, however, it doesn't happen within the next couple of hours, and on a 50-minute world we see up, down, and up, and we don't see a break, and then we see a bit of a faster break through this support, and then we see a slowish upside like that, then downside seems likely, maybe. Then a reversal could happen. But otherwise, that still has a lot of time, I think, before that could happen. The upside momentum has to really play out, and we have to see how far that can bring the Aussie USD. I'm not interested in longs, though, because of those factors that make it look shaky on the even potential downside. So I would be neutral unless we really get a good reversal signal on the 15, or, as I said previously, or we get a correction like that, for example. This goes back to the 0 line, and we get another break above the 50-minute fractal. Could even be a good buy again. So yeah, I think my favorites at the moment are just dollar yen and for break to the upside, and euro odd, pound odd to the downside. But considering this entire, basically the entire environment is quite choppy, so. And with FOMC tomorrow, I'm not sure if that choppiness necessarily will disappear. That that might linger around. So yeah, probably waiting for small breakout trades like that on the 15 could be best, just to catch some pips within a decent amount of hours and then close out, because maybe trading something, anything really like a swing on 1 hour chart might not prove to be that successful with FOMC close by and a lot of choppiness. So maybe waiting for the oscillators to go back on the zero line on the 50-minute world and taking those smaller breakouts could be the best plan with not much momentum. Or maybe, yeah, 1 hour, 4 hour charts don't seem that attractive, maybe, because of that. Unless you're maybe trying to attempt a bigger position. Well, the ATR would give you some idea. We can put the ATR on. Average true range, let's take a look. It's the 1 hour chart. ATR spiked down to 9, now about 11. It's pretty low. But more importantly, maybe to take a look at this 4 hour, you can see it's slowing down to about 24. So that's not even the lowest it has been. Day chart is speeding up though. It was obviously very short in low in here, sorry, and broke out of that range when we broke to the downside here. You can also look at Bollinger Bands, of course. The weekly is very, very low. So let's see. If this breakout does happen, though, I would like the breakout. If we do push above 135.50, I want to see if we can maintain price above there, make a small bull flag like that. Then the next break could be interesting. So that would be what I would be looking for on the euro dollar to the up and downside. And with that said, I guess it wraps it up for today. And well, tomorrow we'll take a look at trend lines. It says trend live, but it's actually trend lines, I think, was the meaning. If I remember correctly, it was already a while ago that I wrote the schedule. But so that's trend lines. And then Thursday we're going to take a look at fibs and waves. So I hope that you'll join me. Even if you don't like waves, we're going to take a look at fibs as well. So be careful today. It looks quite choppy, but certain things could be interesting, like the euro odd, pound odd, dollar yen, maybe euro dollar, downside or up, depending on the break. And that was about it today for myself, at least. Hope to see you tomorrow. And as I said, wish you all good trading. Cheers.